This is Jim Fetzer, your host on Authentic News right here on RBM Live this 17th day of March 2025, St. Patrick's Day. I am not a happy camper. Columbia University has expelled, suspended, or revoked degrees of 22 students. This is completely outrageous. For expressing opposition to the policies and actions of the State of Israel, Columbia is screwing these students. This is completely contrary to everything for which the United States is supposed to stand. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion. If we don't have the right to criticize our government or other governments, it doesn't mean a damn thing to be an American. And think of this. The American dream is built on education. I spent 35 years in higher education. Kentucky, Virginia twice, Cincinnati, Chapel Hill, New College, University of Minnesota Duluth. I know my way around higher education. Graduated from Princeton, PhD, Indiana, and even did a year graduate work at Columbia. This is as violative of everything for which this country is supposed to stand as any action could be. It's destructive, it's corrosive, it's sabotage. People build their lives around their education. They take a certain set of courses to earn certain degrees to qualify for certain positions, and now Columbia, on political grounds, is going to pull the rug out from under students who earn their degrees. This is outrageous. I spent an hour and a half talking about this on Revolution Radio this morning. Believe me, if you want to hear my unadulterated thoughts, check it out there. Meanwhile, an extremist Zionist group has sent a list of about 1,000 Palestine defenders to Trump officials for deportation. This is stunning. The group is called BETAR, B-E-T-A-R, which a pro-Israeli anti-defamation league is even blacklisted after comments like, not enough babies were killed in Gaza. Says it's provided, I underestimated, thousands of names for possible arrest and expulsion. I don't like what's going on here. It's bad enough when Trump is running a Zionist foreign policy, when he's mucked up our relations with Russia, when he had a golden opportunity to make things right, and that he's going after Gaza and the Houthis in Iran, just as Bibi would like to do. If Bibi were sitting in the Oval Office, it's a disgrace. I am sick of it. This is over the line. I can no longer support this man as President of the United States, notwithstanding all the other good work he has done. We couldn't tolerate Kamala and walls with open borders and all that. But I'm telling you, what this man is doing is destroying America. I don't like it. Meanwhile, we are getting a report that the dean, the professor at the center of the Columbia University deportation scandal, is a former Israeli spy. Her name, Karine Yarmy-Milo, dean at Columbia School for International and Public Affairs. She's charming. She's got a great bio, but she's an Israeli stooge, in my opinion. Get this. She has lots of credentials. Yarmy-Milo is series editor of Princeton Studies in International History and Politics from the Princeton University Press, a very distinguished press. She's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Most of us regard that as a red flag. As I've said before, although Tulsi is supposed to be a member, that doesn't mean she believes in what they stand for. In this case, however, I'd be willing to bet Yarmy-Milo does. She earned her PhD at Penn, her BA summa cum laude from Columbia, grew up in Israel, where she served in the IDF intel, completing mandatory military service. While in Israel, she worked with several NGOs promoting peace in the Middle East, including the Perez Center for Peace and Innovation. I dare say she is an Israeli operative, or so it appears to me. She appears to be fomenting problems here. Here's more about it. This is from the UN's Review. Alan McLeod, professor at Center at Columbia University deportation scandal, is a former Israeli spy. Mahmoud Khalel, a recent graduate at the University School of International and Public Affairs, of which she is the dean, was abducted by ICE Saturday for his role in organizing protests last year against Israel's attack on Gaza. Khalel's dean, this is Karen Yari Milo, is a former Israeli military intel officer and official in Israel's mission to the United Nations. You know, representation at the UN is the biggest propaganda platform they have in the entire world. Yari Milo played a significant role in drumming up public concern about a supposed wave of intolerable anti-Semitism, which I do not believe and have denied is existing, sweeping over the campus. It's anti-Israel. It's anti-genocide. It's not pro-terrorism. It is the opposite, thereby laying the groundwork for the extensive crackdown on civil liberties that has followed the protests. This is very, very bad. I would say this is a case where you have an extremely well-placed operative for a foreign nation who's in effect conducting sabotage against the United States. My opinion. Do we still have the right to express our opinion in the United States? Donald Trump claims he's all for free speech. Well, what's he doing? He's clamping down on everyone who wants to exercise it. That is not freedom of speech. The obligation of the President of the United States is to uphold the Constitution, to preserve it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, here you have a lot of domestic enemies, and he's not living up to his oath of office. I am disgusted. Trump has got to come clean. He's got to act as the American president, not the Jewish alternative. He said he was going to make America great, but I'm seeing more and more signs why there are those cynics who call this the United States of America. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, Trump's pro-Israel McCarthyism is already boomeranging. I would like to believe it. Neocons are taking advantage of the neo-McCarthyism Trump has stoked against pro-Palestinian activists on the left to go after more anti-war voices on the right in his own admin. Such witch hunts never stop at their original targets. The trouble with McCarthyism is once it gets going, it has a habit of ensnaring figures who are not meant to be its original targets. We're seeing this with the Trump admin and broader right-wing crackdown on speech criticizing Israel, than which nothing could be more deserved, and broader, which yesterday was used to fire one of the administration's own foreign policy picks. The news that Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis had been dropped from a planned appointment as Deputy Director of National Intelligence came as swiftly as the news he'd been offered and accepted the job in the first place. Davis, a senior fellow at Events Priorities and a prominent conservative commentator on the pro-restraint side of the foreign policy divide, not Israel-first foreign policy, which we're seeing in Ukraine, in dealing with Russia. He's all out on behalf of the Zionist president of Ukraine who doesn't even have a legitimate office. He's mucked up our relation with Russia where there was a perfect opportunity for a restart of more cordial relations. And, of course, in the Middle East, he's gone all in, attacking the Houthis now, running a bombing campaign. Outrageous. He came under attack by pro-Israel voices as soon as the news he was hiring went public, focusing on his record of criticism of Israel's war in Gaza. Look, I've listened to the guy a lot. He's very calm. He's very balanced. He's very sensible. I don't think I've ever heard him make a criticism with which I disagreed. This is outrageous. in allowing the ADL or these other extremist groups to run our foreign policy or our administration is outrageous, outrageous, un-American, undemocratic. It contradicts all the claims he made when he was campaigning for presidency. This is very bad. Meanwhile, bear in mind, we're running the risk of even the introduction of the Noahide laws, which would have no other God but the Jewish God. If you're a Christian, according to the Noahide laws, you're entitled to be killed. In fact, Rabbi Schneerson, who many regard as the Messiah, they thought he was the incarnation of the Jewish God on earth, said, no, he couldn't be the Messiah because there's still Christians alive on earth. That's what he said. I don't make this up. Unbelievable. That's their attitude. All the Christians have to die under the Noahide laws. That would be a requirement. And notice, well, we've lost like a million Ukrainians in the war with Russia. They're virtually all Christians. Some cynics have suggested the war, in a way, is paving the way for Israel to repopulate Ukraine, because Israel has worn out its welcome in the Middle East, but of course it's not playing out. I do believe the resistance has been so vast because as Klaus Schwab, who is running the World Economic Forum, has declared the New World Order cannot move forward without Ukraine. Well, they're not going to get Ukraine. Russia's seen to that. And I say Boot may be saving the whole world from the Great Reset in the New World Order. I say that is good for him. But get this. Under the Noahide laws, proclaiming Jesus as king would be illegal. A report published by the Network Contagion Research Institute analyzed the use of the phrase Christ is king on social media, suggesting it has been appropriated by extremists. Among those mentioned in the study is Jack Posobiec, who has used the phrase in various posts. The report, however, acknowledges they were neutral and free of offensive content, or questions the real meaning behind the expression. Posobiec rejects the accusations, arguing that Christ is king, the phrase, is simply a traditional Christian expression of faith without any political or extremist connotation. In his response, he mentions he's heard it all his life, does not understand why there's now an effort to discredit or politicize its use. According to him, the report is part of a broader agenda to control religious discourse and label certain phrases as unacceptable or even illegal. Under the Noahide laws, the penalty would be the most extreme death, typically by decapitation. Think about it, all you Christian Zionists who want to have Zionism prevail, who want to bring the Noahide laws. You may be separating your head from your body as a consequence. Meanwhile, a NATO ally has begged Trump for nukes, and it just might happen. You thought things were bad? This would make them immeasurably worse. Poland's president just dropped a bombshell, figuratively for now, urging the U.S. to move nuclear weapons into his country to counter the growing Russian threat. And if history is any indicator, when Trump hears a NATO ally making sense for once, he listens. Except this is nonsense. Andrzej Duda, a leader who actually understands what real deterrence looks like. So this is a highly biased report. I just want to warn you of the threat it represents. Told the Financial Times the time had come for NATO's nuclear arsenal to shift eastward. Why? Because Russia already did it. Moscow stationed tactical nukes in Belarus, right up Poland's doorstep, and NATO under Biden did nothing. Now Duda is calling out the hypocrisy of an alliance that still stores its most powerful weapons in Western Europe, far from the actual frontline states most at risk. I guarantee you 100% Putin would never allow Poland to get nukes. Poland's been at the center of 2 world wars, mind you, and for them to get nukes would be idiocy. Meanwhile, the Kremlin had told the U.S., and we already botched this, they didn't like the envoy to be at the peace talks. This is Trump's guy. We're, of course, a bit past this now. President Donald Trump, special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, was excluded from high-level talks on ending the war after the Kremlin said it to want him there. A U.S. official and Russian official told NBC. This was retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, conspicuously absent from the two recent summits in Saudi Arabia, one with Russian officials, the other Ukrainian, even though the talks soon came under his remit. We'll see. Meanwhile, Trump letter to Putin threatening new sanctions if peace is not reached. This is something plain catch-up. It was an incredibly stupid thing that Trump did. Absolutely outrageous. President Trump said he's strongly considering imposing far-reaching sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a peace agreement is reached with the war in Ukraine, based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield. I'm strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. But, of course, it's far removed from any agreement because Zelensky has declared Ukraine's not going to give up any territory. And Russia has declared they're not going to return any of the territory they control. So it's all outrageous. Trump's thuggish style of foreign policy is repulsive. The whole world finds it obnoxious. Americans need to catch on what's going on here because none of it is good. Thus, we have the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury threatening Russia with the toughest sanctions ever. Trump is willing to apply maximum pressure on both sides, Scott Bessent said. New York, March 13. U.S. admin will not hesitate to introduce the toughest sanction against Russia if it's required for successful talks on a peaceful settlement of the conflict in Ukraine, the Secretary of the Treasury said on CNBC. But what has Putin's response been? To don a military uniform. To me, that signals he no longer believes in the West. He no longer believes Trump is an opportunity for a reset in relation between Russia and the U.S. He's settling in for the war that has now become inevitable. First to take Ukraine, all of Ukraine, and then, if necessary, to take on NATO and the United States. It's all very bad. When I have in the past recently expressed relief that Trump was giving us more time, I thought he was going to act rationally, not as though we were a Zionist stooge. Well, that's what we've got in the White House, have no doubt. A Zionist stooge. I'm extremely upset. Meanwhile, Hamas has agreed to release an American prisoner and 4 dead hostages. Friday, Hamas has accepted a proposal from mediators to release one living American Israeli hostage and the bodies of 4 dual nationals who died in captivity. That news office cast doubts on the offer, accusing Hamas of trying to manipulate talks underway in Qatar on the next stage of the Israeli-Hamas ceasefire. The terrorist group, mind you, in my opinion, these are freedom fighters, in the Gaza Strip did not immediately specify when the release of the soldier and the 4 bodies would occur or what it would get in return.
Health Simple.
Meanwhile,
Shilaji. Fact number 3. Shilaji is the supreme yoga vaha. Within Ayurveda, Shilaji is the singular substance that towers above all other herbs, herbal minerals, and earth-made adaptogens. Yoga vaha refers to substances that have the ability to synergistically make better and carry other substances to its prescribed destination. In the case of Shilaji, most any herb, food, or mineral is amplified with ionic potential superimposing superior efficacy with increased cellular energy and absorption rates. One of the best applications for Shilajit is to add a drop or two into your favorite herbal tincture and foodstuff. Simply put, Shilajit makes other substances more effective.
Look for the gold mountain and medical symbol logo in banners on republicbroadcasting.org to watch the full video and see more information. Use code GORBN when ordering. That's GORBN.
Do you begin to smell some funky little things going on? Let me share this story with you. It's not so much a story, it's something I wrote years ago. Read your history, people. Stock markets collapse on Friday. Bank seizures, closures, holidays take place after business hours on Friday. Do currencies or governments also collapse on Friday? Tomorrow's Friday. Will the end come on this Friday, or will the inevitable collapse hold off for a while?
Anti-war.com reports, surprise, surprise, occupation of southern Syria by Israel will continue for an unlimited time. That means forever. When Israel invaded Syria in December, it announced the intention to remain at Mount Hermon along the UN Disengagement Observer Force region on the Syrian side of the border through 2025. That appears to have been just the start, as Israel has taken more Syrian territory since then, and Defense Minister Israel Katz is now saying the occupation will be for an unlimited time. Israel has declared all of southern Syria to be a no-go area for Syrian long-range forces, and as a zone Syrian troops aren't allowed in, stretching through much of Rift Damascus Governorate, as well as all of Quneitra, Dara, and the western part of the Suwadia governorates. Katz said Israel is prepared to keep its own military in that entire area to ensure its declarations are followed. Katz comments on the only indication this is more or less permanent occupation. The Israeli army has reportedly been ordered to construct more and more outposts inside occupied Syria, with the goal of keeping Syrian forces at least 65 kilometers from the border between Syria and the already occupied Golan Heights, which is also Syrian territory under international law, though Donald Trump declared it to be Syrian territory when he didn't even have the authority to do it. We're beginning to get the pieces together to see what we're really up against here. Meanwhile, Syria placed under Islamist rule for 5 years by a new interim constitution. In December, the Sunni Islamist HTS took over Syria in an internationally backed offensive. HTS was formerly known as the Jabhat al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda in Iraq before that, which, of course, are terrorist organizations according to American law. Today, their leader, Ahmed al-Sharaa, formerly known as Abdul Ahmed al-Jolani, signed a new declaration of an interim constitution. The actual constitution doesn't appear to be totally written at this point, interestingly enough, despite being made law of the land. There's a 7-person committee appointed by HTS to draft it, with a stipulation the country will be placed under Islamist rule for the next 5 years, ahead of another future final constitution going into effect. The declaration places conditions on the constitution, including a requirement the president of Syria must always be a Muslim, and that Islamic law will be the main source of jurisprudence. Meanwhile, Greenland's voters are reported to be embracing Trump with open arms. I find this a bit difficult to imagine. Something huge just happened in Greenland, and the globalists won't like it one bit. The country's long dominant leftist parties just got crushed for the first time. Greenland's new leadership could align with President Trump's America First vision. For decades, Greenland politics have been monopolized by left-wing pro-European establishment parties that have stood in the way of independence and rejected American influence. But after Tuesday's election, that era is officially over. Wow. Meanwhile, disastrous report gives damning verdict on the German army. A new report released this week gives a damning assessment of the capabilities of the German army, highlighting its disastrous infrastructure, calling it premature for its soldiers to be sent on a peacekeeping mission to Ukraine. Presenting the report Tuesday, March 11th, Eva Hochul, the Armed Forces Commissioner of the Bundestag, said the Bundeswehr Armed Forces still has too little of everything, despite a €100 billion special fund established in the wake of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which was supposed to improve recruitment, develop infrastructure, and speed up new weapon procurement. But the results were in many cases not yet visible, noticeable, or measurable, while the special fund has largely been used up. Oh, wow, gee, how could that happen? Meanwhile, the U.S. Army losing huge number of recruits during the first 2 years of their enlistment. Why am I not surprised? A new report claims the Army has lost about 25% of the soldiers the military recruited since 2022.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Hey there, are you going to wait till the cows come home to get your new...
Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, improves performance, reduces emissions, and you'll feel it every time you step on the gas. If you're an owner-operator, farmer, heavy equipment operator, or use any kind of engine from chainsaws, leaf blowers, lawnmowers, ATVs, you name it, contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your equipment. Hey, if you've got an engine, then Get More Tank. Save your money, save your engine, reduce your emissions, and save the earth with GetMoreTank.com. A 5-pack of GetMoreTank.com is only $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code Republic Broadcasting and get 10% off. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, and results vary. GetMoreTank.com.
Standing 6'4", weighing 245 pounds of crime-fighting, political science analyzing brawn. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Patrick Slattery.
So, Mike, get off this anti-cicada agenda.
I'm a born-again traditional Christian, and my favorite possessions are right here on my nightstand. That would be the King James Bible and my .357 revolver.
I'd rather be ruled by Chinamen than Jews.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks, right?
Just because you steal an election and terminate the Republic doesn't mean you terminate the people in the Republic, because we're still here.
I'm not taking the vaccine. Fuck you, Bill Gates.
There was a way forward still on January 6th. What needed to be done is to object to every single state.
The COVID-19 virus was the setup. The vaccine could very well be the bioweapon.
The Patrick and Jeremy Show. Tuesday at 9 Central, and Wednesday at 1 Central.
Help! I need somebody. Help! Not just anybody. Help! You know I need someone. Help! When I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. Now these days are gone and I'm not so self-assured. Now I find I've changed my mind and open up the doors.
As I was explaining, a new report claims the U.S. Army has lost about 25% of the soldiers they recruited since 2022 prior to completion of their contracts. According to military.com, internal Army data obtained by military.com shows almost 25% Army soldiers recruited since 2022 have not completed their initial contracts. Outlet noted the report comes as the Army surpassed its recruitment goal and recruited 55,300 new active duty troops last year, despite repeatedly struggling to meet recruitment goals under the Biden-Harris admin. Well, there are all kinds of reasons for it. They're out of shape. They're not fit. They're not mentally prepared. Remember, I used to supervise recruit training at the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego with 15 DIs and 300 recruits going through the training cycle. Today's recruits, meaning most of the American population, can't cut it. They're not physically, they're not mentally, they're not in many cases even morally qualified to serve in the U.S. military, and we're reaching a point where we might actually need it. Here's another story equally distressing. U.S. Navy, dead in the water? Mission. This is Captain Brent Ramsey, U.S. Navy, retired. Here's a statement on the Navy's website. Mission. The U.S. is a maritime nation. The U.S. Navy protects America at sea. Alongside our allies and partners, we defend freedom, preserve economic prosperity, and keep the seas open and free. Our nation is engaged in long-term competition to defend American interests around the globe. The U.S. Navy must remain prepared to execute our timeless role as directed by Congress and the President. Missing recruiting goals by 1,000 for 2 years in a row, missing its goal for fiscal year 2023 by over 7,000 new recruits. The impact of missing recruiting goals is cumulative. Its impact does not subside if in subsequent years deficits are not made up. Lack of manpower adds to the strain of a Navy struggling to meet its national priorities overseas. Failing to recruit enough people to man the Navy is a result of many factors, but what it means is the U.S. isn't in a position to conduct a single war, much less the idea of multiple. Meanwhile, get this, more Zionist influence on our government. DOJ deploys anti-Semitism task force to 4 U.S. cities as part of crackdown on pro-Palestine protests. U.S. Department of Justice said Thursday it recently created federal task force to combat anti-Semitism will be heading to 4 U.S. cities as part of the Trump administration broad crackdown on calling protests critical of Israel. And that's how it ought to be renamed. Federal Task Force to combat criticism of Israel for slaughtering Palestinians. The DOJ said the task force, led by attorney Leo Terrell, will be visiting New York, Boston, Chicago, and Los Angeles to discuss their responses to incidents of anti-Semitism, meaning criticism of Israel, at colleges and schools in their cities over the past 2 years. This is offensive. This is absurd. This is obscene. We have a First Amendment, damn it all. The President of the United States is not going to uphold the Constitution of the United States. He ought to get the hell out of office. He ought to resign or be impeached. This is offensive in the extreme. He took an oath. He's violating the oath blatantly. Meanwhile, Jewish activists demonstrate outside of New York Trump Tower demanding the release of a Palestinian protest leader. Now, see, these are Jews against genocide. These are Jews who want the United States to conform to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Hundreds of activists with a Jewish peace group staged a sit-in at Trump's signature headquarters in New York Thursday, demanding the immediate release of Palestinian activist Muhammad Khalal, reported by Anadolu, chanting, "Free Mahmoud, free them all. We want justice. You say how. Bring Mahmoud home now." And fight Nazis, not students. Protesters with the group Jewish Voice for Peace filled the Trump Tower lobby, voicing their opposition to the activist detention. Well, Jewish Voices for Peace are on the right side of the issue. The American Department of Justice, alas, is not. Meanwhile, here we have a report from Armstrong Economics. American support for Israel wanes. Americans are more likely to support Israel amid the Middle East conflict, but support is waning. A Gallup poll, and those are heavily left-wing, found that 46% of Americans feel sympathy toward Israel, the lowest support in Gallup 25 years of tracking. Around 33% of Americans sympathize with Palestine, a 6% rise from 2024, and the highest reading on file. Democrats are far more likely, 49 to 18%, to sympathize with Palestine over Israel compared to Republicans. Well, here, the Democrats have it right. This shift for the Democrats occurred in 2022, as prior to that, it was bipartisan support for Israel. About 40% of Americans say they approve of Trump's handling of the war. Yet, most Americans want to see a two-state solution where Palestine established as clear national lines. Around 55% of American adults support this measure and want to see an independent Palestine. Republicans are split on the issue, 41% in favor, 49% in opposition. Remember, Michael Huckabee says, yeah, a Jewish state is a fine thing. A Palestinian state is a fine thing as long as it's outside the borders of Israel. Grotesque. Ann Coulter slams Trump for lying about the wall already being built, as he thinks his supporters are dumb. Conservative commentator Ann Coulter lashed out at President Donald Trump for telling his supporters sections of the proposed border wall are already built. Tuesday, she shared a Twitter, Washington Fact column article entitled, "President Trump says his beautiful wall is being built." Nope. Which stated Trump has proclaimed the wall is being built when in reality it isn't. The White House failed miserably to achieve its objectives on funding for a border wall, receiving relative peanuts. It sought $25 billion, but wound up with 5% of that. Moreover, the money came with strings attached, could be used only for fencing, not the great and beautiful wall promised by Trump. Alongside her tweet, Coulter also wrote, even a Washington Post reporter knows that not 1 inch of Trump's wall has been built. Does Trump think his supporters are dumber than a Washington Post reporter? Well said. Here we go. Trump says everything Joe Biden's staff signed with an auto pen could be in trouble. I think this is, in fact, correct. President Trump had a press conference with the Justice Department Friday, using an opportunity to rip far-left judges and blast corrupt prosecutors. Trump remarks were focused on restoring law and order and ending the weaponization of the department. At one point, he brought up the growing Biden auto pen scandal. As previously reported, the Oversight Project has gathered every document they could find with Biden's signature. All use the same auto pen signature, except for the announcement that he was dropping out of the 2024 race. The New York Post dropped a bombshell after the Oversight Committee revealed nearly every document Biden signed was done with the same auto pen. According to the Post, Steve Nelson, a key Biden aide, may have exceeded their authority by unilaterally determining what documents a robo signed. The Post knows the name of the key Biden aide, but hasn't disclosed it yet. That will be coming out, have no doubt. Meanwhile, Truth Seeker has a very curious argument. Well, it's Henry Macau, who doesn't mince words. Macau says Trump's role is to discredit MAGA. He begins. The Fed Secretary Pete Hegseth was so moved when he visited the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He wanted to vow the present mosque holy site must be torn down and the third Jewish temple built. Hagopian, if it doesn't go nuclear, the Eastern powers will decisively defeat the depleted West. But then tragically, that's a bloodline gatekeeper's evil endgame objective all along. Macau. Think about it, folks. Trump is pitting the U.S. government against almost 2 billion Muslims. Islam is the second largest religion in the world, Christianity the largest. But who could be setting these two at each other's neck? Trump's role is the same as Hitler's, to discredit everything he supposedly represents: Christianity, nationalism, race, and family. Initially, Trump will garner support by popular measures, but finally, like Nazism, MAGA, will be discredited when America's in ruins and Chinese troops are in our streets. Trump, Netanyahu, and Putin all belong to Shabbat, a Jewish cult that is realizing biblical prophecy that it requires a social catastrophe in order to summon the Jewish Messiah. The God of Shabbat, the goal of Shabbat is to exterminate Christians and non-Satanists in general. Believe me, he's onto something, as I've explained. Rabbi Schneerson made it clear when he was suspected of being the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah returned to earth, that no, he could not be the Messiah. Why? Because there are still Christians alive on earth. Meanwhile, Trump evokes the Wartime Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to carry out deportation to Guantanamo. You may recall we had this bit of a fiasco where they were taken down and then they were brought back and released. I was sure it had to do with the lack of a legal framework to justify it. Maybe he has found one here. President Trump is planning to invoke a wartime law known as the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 as soon as Friday to authorize the summary deportation of some migrants, including to Guantanamo, escalating the government's wide immigration crackdown. Multiple U.S. officials familiar with the plan told CBS. The 227-year-old law gives President the extraordinary power to order the arrest, detention, and deportation of non-citizens who are 14 years or older and come from countries staging an invasion or predatory incursion of the U.S. We'll see how that plays out. Meanwhile, shred and burn order drops. Deep state cover-up launched. Nothing surprising here again. The Biden era deep state is up to its old tricks. This time they're literally burning the evidence. A bombshell report revealed top officials at the Agency for International Development ordered staff to shred and burn classified and personal documents, sparking serious legal and ethical concerns. Well, those concerns are all legitimate. According to an internal email obtained by the New York Times, acting USAID Executive Secretary Erica Y. Carr, this may be dated, explicitly instructed employees to destroy records, even giving them a step-by-step guide. Shred first, burn later. The agency's leadership did not clarify what was being destroyed or why this sudden urgency arose, but one thing is crystal clear. This isn't the behavior of an administration with nothing to hide. Yes. Meanwhile, Pentagon leaker pleads guilty to obstructing justice, attacks Biden in defending his acts. Bedford, Mass. Jack Texiera, Massachusetts Air National Guard member, caused an international uproar when he leaked highly classified docs about the war in Ukraine, uses court-martial Thursday to describe himself as a proud patriot, was only exposing and correcting the lies perpetrated by the Biden administration. After pleading guilty to military charges of obstructing justice, the 25-year-old acknowledged he knew his actions were illegal, but he felt he needed to share the truth about the Biden admin, how it was misleading the American public about the war in Ukraine. If I saved even one American, Russian, or Ukrainian life to get this senseless money grab war, my punishment was worth it, he said. His politicized comments a stark contrast to the contrite apology he issued at his federal sentencing. Well, if you believe it, meanwhile, exclusive, there are still 9 significant missing items in the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on Trump. 9 missing items. First, chain of custody. The body on the roof of the ARG building was left overnight without oversight before being transported to Allegheny Medical Examiner's office. Related to this is no memorandum of understanding outlining jurisdictional roles between state and federal entities has been disclosed. 2, autopsy report. The full findings remain undisclosed. 3, ballistic report. Key details about projectiles and weapon matches are missing. Vague terms like consistent with leave crucial questions unanswered. 4, fingerprint identification. Despite fingerprint background checks conducted by accused assassin Thomas Crew nursing home employer, no match has been confirmed for identifying his body. 5th, timing of parental call. Reports suggest CNN dipped off the parents before authorities arrived. The timing of the father's call remains unclear. 6, father's weapon sale. Bizarre information about the father selling the gun to his son and how it will be handled the day of the assassination.
Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for?
Hey there, this is Sheila with Hemp Paste by MyNutra. Why is hemp paste better than other CBD options on the market? It's important to point out that the common CBD oil does not contain CBDA or CBGA, and they're only found in fresh or raw hemp products, like hemp paste. Hemp paste contains the entire plant, minus any stems. This means the product retains the complete genetic code of the plant, which also includes those 2 vital cannabinoids, CBGA and CBDA. Over and over, experts keep saying the more intact or less processed the hemp plant is, the more effective it is. Happy hemp paste.
Hemppaste.com/RBN. Free shipping on orders over $50. See the banners for hemp paste at republicbroadcasting.org. And visit hemppaste.com/RBN.
Call 855-656-8872. Mention RBN.
Tehibo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit drinksupertea.com. The first word is drink, spelled D-R-I-N-K, then the word super, then the word tea. The complete website is drinksupertea.com. or call us at 818-965-9113, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-965-9113. DrinkSuperTea.com.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
Several years ago, I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my flippy heart. It was doing not good things, and I did not want to go to a medical doctor because I just knew they would give me a cover-up pill. I didn't want to get onto that sort of thing at all. When I learned it was garlic and cayenne, and cayenne is a healer. It is a wonderful herb. I said, I think I'm onto something here. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be without it. It did wonderful things for me.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite. Comes the sun, here comes the sun, I say it's alright.
Fourth final story, Democrats are a dead end. Elites are taking note. Obama's protege is their best hope to beat Republicans. Sanders rally mocks Christianity. U.S. deficit surpasses $1 trillion in February. Let's take a closer look at a couple of these. Democrats are a dead end. Newt Gingrich took the Fox Wednesday to hammer home a point that should have Democrats shaking in their boots. Elon Musk's break with the Democrat Party isn't just about a billionaire's political evolution. It's a flashing red warning light for the entire country. Appearing on Jesse Water Prime Time, Gingrich laid it out clearly. Musk, what politically neutral, has fully turned against the Democrats because their radical policies have made America unrecognizable. The Biden admin's reckless overreach, combined with Washington's unchecked corruption, pushed one of the world's most influential innovators straight into the arms of the Republican movement. And that, according to Newt, is just the beginning. Meanwhile, Obama protege is Democrats' best hope to beat Republicans. The Democrat Party is suffering from a leadership crisis, which has left them with no clear successor to the Barack Obama-Joe Biden era. California's Governor Gavin Newsom is too hated. Former Vice President Kamala Harris is too stupid. Nancy Pelosi is too old. The old guard Democrats are more suited for a nursing home than the White House. And the New Age Democrats are too openly communist, such as AOC. But there's one incredibly dangerous name who could stand a chance at becoming the Democrats' next presidential nominee, Rahm Emanuel. Emanuel is Obama's former White House chief of staff, widely credited with making Obama into the ultimate ultra-partisan scumbag who did an incomprehensible amount of damage to America during his 2 terms. And by the way, in Chicago, the reports have it was notorious that Barack Obama and Rahm Emanuel having a torrid affair in the bathhouses there. And then, of course, he brought him along as his chief of staff. We suspect Michelle, who's, of course, also a man, became jealous, as has happened in other cases. Meanwhile, Sanders' rally mocks Christianity. The Trump admin added protection for Christians for a reason. Christians have been relentlessly persecuted by the far left, who have turned wokeness into a religion. The media split after Bernie Sanders, 83, launched his Stop Oligarchy tour with an introduction from a transsexual singer who deliberately mocked God, Jesus, Holy Easter, and Christians in general. The singer in question